Hi, it's Rachel here, doing something a bit different today, videoing from the cemetery, as you can see. Nice cemetery just on the hill above where I live actually. I hope you can see that. Anyway, I've just spent the last 20 minutes or so walking around looking for a particular gravestone, and I've found it, and I'll show you. Hope you saw that okay. The reason I've come up here, I suppose, is to talk about love. As you know, the theme for the convention this year is Love Never Fails. And unfortunately, I can think of many ways that love does fail when it comes to the Jehovah's Witnesses organisation. And I feel love failed one of the individuals in the gravestone that we just looked at. It's very sad. If you notice, there were 3 photos there, mother and her daughter and her mother, so 3 generations of women. And one of them I studied with. She was my very last Bible student that I had, and it's understandable why she really enjoyed having a study, and that's because she needed some kind of hope. She needed to believe that she could see her daughter and her mother again. And she used to love coming to my house to have her study. We arranged it that way because she was always embarrassed about her place being a mess and that sort of thing, which it wasn't. But anyway, she used to come to my house for her study, and she always looked so bright and cheerful and full of optimism. I think she just really liked hearing about the resurrection. The way I met her, I actually was studying with her boyfriend at first, that I met in the door-to-door ministry, and he became increasingly difficult to find at home, and then I found out that it was because he'd met her. He'd got himself a girlfriend, and 2008, so yeah, I guess her daughter, his girlfriend, anyway, as I found out more about the girlfriend, I found out that her daughter had committed suicide when she was 15, and she was in the care of grandmother at the time. And anyway, I don't know, that didn't really click into my head. But then later on, when it became increasingly difficult to find my student at home, one day I caught him, and he told me that his girlfriend's mother had also committed suicide because her grandchild had been in her care when she had committed suicide. I mean, there were probably other things that came into it as well. But I mean, how tragic is that? That's just awful. Anyway, I went to visit the girlfriend, and I took another sister with me who I had heard knew this girl. So we started a study with her together initially, and then after a time, the other sister, she just stopped coming. She's almost virtually inactive pretty much, but anyway, my students started coming to my house, yeah, and she just absolutely loved coming. She loved what she was learning, but she was really struggling, and I didn't really appreciate it. I'll start walking to the car. This is where love, the failure of love within the Jehovah's Witness organisation comes into play, because, you know, when I started studying with her, of course I thought about how the truth supposedly could bring some relief and comfort to her. But I was also interested in putting numbers down on my report, getting some time in, which was easy at home, and that. I mean, it sounds a bit horrible, but it gets a bit like that sometimes. It's not that I'm not a compassionate person or have empathy, but there's such a focus for witnesses on converting people over to the religion, to Jehovah's Witnesses, rather than really taking the time to listen. I'll just hop in the car. Hopefully it's not too hot in there. People are driving by probably thinking, what am I doing? Talking to myself. Or doing a video. Anyway, I'll just put this down here. Okay, so I mean, she enjoyed the studies, and I did, and she would talk to me about some of her issues and problems that she was having. Like she was working, obviously, and she was studying to further her career and give her greater employment opportunities. She was trying her darndest to be positive and move forward. She's just such a, if you met her, you'd see that she was very bright and always full of optimism. And I think if I had been a truly loving person, I would have been switched on to the pain that she must be feeling. Like, I really didn't. I don't think I ever really talked to her about her daughter, even though she did tell me that she still hadn't cleaned her daughter's stuff out of the house. She still had a wardrobe full of her old toys and things like that. And I just didn't grasp how she must have been suffering so badly. And I think this is the problem with being a witness. We don't really listen to people. When you love someone, and Jehovah's Witnesses are supposed to be loving, and it's supposed to identify them as Christians, loving someone involves wanting to know about them, wanting to know what makes them tick, how their brain works, what's important to them, what they care about, how they feel, all these kinds of things. But we really, as witnesses, we seem to be more focused on getting through the paragraphs in the book. We'd give some token attention to their problems, but we'd think to ourselves that, once they get a knowledge of the Bible, that will fix their problems. And, once they learn the truth and start coming to the meetings and get baptized, they'll feel so much better. But we didn't really listen to people. So poor girl, she's lovely. I enjoyed studying with her, but her study did get a bit erratic because she was struggling. Obviously, she did tell me that she would have bouts of depression where she just didn't want to answer the door or answer the phone or anything like that. But I never really thought deep enough to have real empathy with her. So I feel like I failed her, and I feel like the religion failed her. Her study sort of fizzled, although she did come round, and I stopped chasing her basically in the end because, I was doing the study on a Sunday afternoon, and often I'd come home from the meeting with a headache, and I'd have to lie down and try and sort that out before she came around, and I just stopped chasing her. I thought, when she's really, if she's really interested, she'll come to me. And she did come round a couple of times to say that she still wanted to study, but she was just sort of tied up with stuff. And if I was a true friend, if I was truly loving, I would have given her more attention and gone round to her place, and without the thought of sitting down and doing a Bible study, but just to be there, just to listen, just to share her grief with her. But no, I didn't do that. This is one of the reasons really where I ended up leaving the Witnesses, because the teachings kind of rob you of your humanity. And Jesus' example shows you how to be compassionate and to have empathy, but the governing body, with all their rules and their procedures and things they expect you to do in a certain way, rob you of your humanity, and you can't respond to people like a fellow human being. It's a very sad thing. So I feel like I failed her, and the organisation failed her. Because another thing too with her study, she actually started coming to the meetings as well, so she was progressing until things sort of got a bit on top of her. But she couldn't stop her smoking, and it used to really annoy me that that's the only thing that would prevent her from going further, was smoking. And I thought, all right, she's got faith in Jesus, she's trying to put into practice what she's learning, yet there's all these hoops to jump through, like the smoking. You can't get baptized until you stop smoking. And so I was giving her hope for the resurrection on the one hand, but then taking it away from her because she couldn't stop smoking and survive Armageddon and see her daughter and mother again. But she was clearly a very depressed and very sad person. Anyway, so that is kind of one example where, in my opinion, the JW kind of love fails people. Earlier this week I actually went to a funeral. This young lady I've just been talking about, she died about 6.5 years ago. But I went to a funeral just a few days ago, and it was another Bible student of mine who actually was baptized. And I went to her funeral at the funeral home, and there were no witnesses present except for her mother, who also was baptized maybe a couple of years after my friend. But anyway, it was a very nice funeral, lots and lots of people there, and there was a little slideshow put together with pictures of Christine and, I gave her name. Anyway, and her husband, who never was a Jehovah's Witness, had prepared a little speech, and he did very, very well, not to let the emotion overcome him while he gave his speech. And I thought, this lady who I had spent hours and hours and hours with over years, because it took her a while to get baptized and a couple of goes at studying, I didn't really know her. I didn't really know the other side of her life. I only knew her JW sort of life. But she had an unbelieving husband and unbelieving children, and she had a whole life and interests and things she cared about and values that were not part of being one of Jehovah's Witnesses. So even though we spent all this time together, I feel like we're kind of really strangers, and that's the way it goes in the organisation, because your interest in people at the start, when you start studying, is solely really to get them into the organisation because you sincerely believe that's what's going to help them. But because you're so concentrated on getting through the study material and getting through the paragraphs, that you don't really listen to the person and get to really know them. I mean, how can you love someone when you don't really know them? Anyway, one thing that has kind of annoyed me about the convention this year, the theme being Love Never Fails, in the little flyer that they're giving out, the invitation to the convention, it basically says that you can make better families and better friends, and what else did it say? Like teach you how to be a better friend, how to make your family better, etc. And I thought, no, and how to be a better person. But it doesn't. It actually teaches you how to be less of a person, less of a human, how to have less fellow feeling towards others, including your fellow believers. Like, think how judgmental we were in the organisation, and the governing body are the ones that, on the one side of the mouth, they'd say to be yielding and forgiving and give people the benefit of the doubt and this sort of thing. And on the other hand, they're getting you to mark them as bad association and shun them. And it's two opposite things at the same time that they were telling us. So, in the congregation, like, if you had a hobby you were interested in, something that you felt quite passionate about and you enjoyed, and you'd kind of keep it to yourself, because people would judge you, think, oh, she spends so much time doing this thing when she's only on field service for an hour a week, or something like that. The judgment, so much judgment on every aspect of your life. So basically, witnesses have to hide who they are from each other. I mean, what kind of love is that? It's not love. And there's a whiteboard animation that is on the website. It's mainly targeting like teenagers, I think. I mean, it's a great little presentation, animation about what a true friend is. I thought, but the kind of friends that they're trying to promote in this animation are just not possible to have in the organisation. A friend that is loyal to you and will listen to you and hear you out, give you the benefit of the doubt. It doesn't exist in the organisation. I mean, what happens if you have a doubt about a teaching or a doubt about the governing body's claims about themselves, and you raise that with your friend in the congregation? What happens? Well, I can tell you what happened with me. One sister packed up her belongings and ran away from me, literally. Another sister who rang me up because I hadn't been going to the meetings for a few weeks or a couple of weeks, she rang me, and I kind of explained to her what I was having a difficulty with the teachings, that we were being too judgmental and unloving towards people outside the organisation by claiming that we were the only ones who had the truth and everyone else was, under Satan's control and misled and didn't have good motives. And I think she hung up on me. And then I did get a text from a sister who said she wanted to come around and visit, and I think this was before I spoke to the other one, and I texted her back and I said, oh, you better not come around. And then, maybe stupidly, I said in the text that according to the organisation I'm an apostate. And this was a sister who I'd had something to do with. I used to give her rides to the conventions, and she'd been round to visit before, and she knew me as a caring, kind, discerning sister. And then the message I got back from her after telling her that according to the organisation I'm an apostate, she just said, "Thanks for telling me, I hope you come back someday." That was it. Isn't that crazy? Is that what a friend would do? No, a friend would say, what do you mean? Why are you saying that? Of course you're not. What made you think that? You know, that's what a friend would do. But no, in the organisation, the governing body have created a phobia amongst witnesses. It's very superstitious as well, because they think that anyone who has any disagreement with the governing body has been given over to Satan's control, that he's using them, or he's got into them somehow. Yeah, witnesses think that if you start questioning the governing body, you've either gone mad or crazy, or Satan's got into you. I mean, that's not very loving, is it? So that's another area where love fails in the organisation. In so many ways, love fails for Jehovah's Witnesses. The love that they show, that they boast about and talk about, is just, it's surface. It's conditional. It's conditional upon accepting the organisation, you know, the governing body, as being God's mouthpiece, basically. And if you speak against them, you are speaking against God. So it's just so sad that, you know, they've given over all their rational thinking and becomes like superstitious towards those who have a different view. And it's only getting worse as time goes on, and the governing body are making it sound like the Great Tribulation is almost on the doorstep, you know, so they're sort of circling the wagons, and, you know, people, the witnesses' ears will be like that. They just don't want to hear anything that goes against what they've been taught. But anyway, I think I have waffled on enough, and as you can see, it's a beautiful day here and the sun is shining on me, and my house is just over the brow, I don't know if that's the word, of this hill here. It dips down to a valley where there's a river, and my house backs onto the river. So it's beautiful, beautiful day today. Really lovely. Got hills and bush. Anyways, I think it's time for me to go home and have some lunch, and I'm opening my little jewellery and gift shop at my home today at 1 o'clock, and I'll probably have no customers as usual. Although I do sell more online, but anyway, hopefully some people venture out today because it is so beautiful and warm and sunny. So anyway, I'll talk to you next time. Bye.